Hey folks, Toad Hancock's here with VisDown.com, and we are in Spain for the launch of the new 2020 Kawasaki Z900. So a very quick high-level overview of the bike for this year. So this is 8899 and it's going to be in dealerships before Christmas. So if you're looking for a test ride or you want to go and check this thing out in the flesh, get yourself down to a Kawasaki dealer this winter. You can pick up a PCP deal on this if you put down about a £1,500 deposit. You will be paying about 145 quid a month, which I think is pretty damn good value for money. A couple of changes for this year compared to the old Z900. So the previous version of the Z900 was quite stripped back. It was sort of a bare bones roadster, for want of a better phrase. And this 2020 model has got some extra sort of tech bits and creature comforts in the form of riding modes, engine power modes, and traction control, which is all switchable and changeable. So it's still the stripped back roadster, but it's got some little creature comforts and some little safety additions in there as well for 2020. So let's go through the bike in a little bit more detail. So starting with the engine. So we've got a 948cc double overhead cam 16 valve liquid cooled 4-cylinder engine, which is all pretty standard fare for the Z900. We're getting around about 124 brake horsepower, I think, which comes in at 9,500 RPM. Power delivery is very linear. Kawasaki have done a lot of work with the throttle connection of this bike over the previous version of the Z900, and it is noticeably smoother. Just on the first initial opening of the throttle, it does feel smoother. It's not that the old Z900 was particularly jerky in any way, but that connection just feels a lot more fluid. And some of the roads that we've been riding on yesterday and again today, there has been a little bit of rain, and under some of the trees on the mountain roads, the road surface has been a little bit wet, and you were thankful that the throttle connection was so sweet and that the traction control was there just to help you scoop up any moments of over exuberance. It's got a very linear power delivery. It feels almost like you can pull away in any gear on this bike. You can sort of roll around really slow corners in sort of third gear, open the throttle, and there's no bogging down. The engine will just pull from quite low down in the rev range. It's not an absolute torque monster, but it's just got a very nicely laid out and a very nice sort of setup to the torque curve and the power curve, and it just makes for a really easy going and very nice bike to ride lower down in the rev range. And then as you come up through the rev range and you get towards sort of the 8,500, 9,000 RPM range, it really comes alive, and the engine just has got so much to give. It's a really pleasurable and very tractable unit to use. So just going to go through the suspension of the Z900. So we've got 41mm upside down forks, and these have got rebound damping and spring preload adjustability on them. And we've got a monoshock at the rear, which again has got the same level of adjustability. I was lucky enough to ride a Z900 not more than about 2 or 3 weeks ago, and it was the previous generation Z900, and this feels a lot more refined in the suspension department. I think the hardware is pretty much the same, but it's been tuned slightly differently for the 2020 version, and it is a very stable and a very refined place to be. It's not that the old Z900 was bad in any way, shape or form, but there's less dive with this bike. The suspension still feels plush, so it's not jarring, it's not overly damped, but it's definitely a more compliant setup to use, and there's the sort of stability of the bike seems a lot better than the previous model. So the brakes on this bike, they are 300mm discs with Nissin 4-pot calipers. There's a 2-channel ABS system, and we've got sort of standard levers. They're not radial brake levers, they are adjustable, but they've got a nice feel to them. So on a bike like this, you don't want anything more. It's not like you don't ever feel that the brakes are lacking in any way. We're hammering up some quite twisty switchback mountain roads yesterday, and even hairpin after hairpin where you're heavy braking down into the hairpins, and then you've only got 50 or 60 yards before you get to the next hairpin, the brakes never felt like they were fading. And it's just a really plush setup, and it's like everything else on the bike. It's chosen really well. It doesn't need anything more. It doesn't need Brembo. It doesn't need crazy huge calipers and corner and ABS. It's got everything that it needs, and it works really well. So just going to talk through the handling of the bike. We've had a excellent opportunity to really test that yesterday and again today when we're going to be riding it. That the roads are perfect for this sort of machine. It's kind of a scratcher's delight. It's 210 kg, so it's, you know, it's a nice weight. It doesn't feel overly heavy when you're out and about on the road. Manual handling the bike, the weight's all sort of nicely laid out. The only real fly in the ointment with the handling, I would say, and this is the only thing that I can really find about the bike that is a little bit sort of negative, is the Dunlop Road Sport 2 tyres. They never seem to really warm up and get sort of sticky. They've kind of got a bit of a wooden sensation. There's more grip than you actually think, but then every now and again you'll go underneath a tree and there'll be a damp patch, or the tarmac will be a little bit cooler, and you can just sort of feel the bike sort of shimmying around a bit. But tyres are an easily fixed problem, in my opinion, and you can quite easily go out and stick a set of sort of stickier tyres on it and you would have a properly nice B-road scratcher. Just going to go through the equipment, which is one of the big things for 2020 that's changed on this bike. So we've got riding modes fitted, so you've got a rain, road, sport and a user configurable one as well, where you can sort of change all the elements of it. We've got switchable traction control and you've got switchable engine power modes as well. The one thing that I really like about this bike, and this is something that not a lot of other manufacturers do, is when you turn the bike off and then turn it back on again, it retains whatever modes you've got. So if you've turned off the traction control because you want to pop some wheelies or, you know, have a bit of fun on the bike, you come back to the bike, you turn the ignition key, and all the power modes have been sort of retained by the TFT dash, which is new for this year as well, which is a really good feature. Just talking about the TFT dash, actually, I've got to say it's probably the easiest to read TFT dash on the market. It's great. It doesn't matter whether you're in direct sunlight, if it's you're going through a tunnel or whatever, you can always read it. It's clearly laid out and you can see everything that you need, and it's not overcomplicated. I wish other manufacturers would follow suit and just do this instead of doing ones where you can make it look like a chronograph watch, which I think is a bit shit, and I don't know why they do it, to be honest with you. I don't want a chronograph watch. I want a dashboard that tells me what I need to know, and that's what this one does, which is absolutely pucker. So just very quickly, things we like about the bike. I think you probably already guessed, I really like the engine. I think it's an absolute peach of a unit. It's got all the power that you need. It's, you know, it's not got 200 horsepower. I don't think it needs it. You can extract all of everything that you need out of the engine, which is, I find, really enjoyable. I like it. I like to be able to sort of extract as much as I can out of a bike's engine, and you can hardly ever do that on a 200 horsepower naked on the road anyway. I'm also liking the suspension and the way that it's set up. Like I said, the old model wasn't particularly bad, but this just feels super plush and super responsive and super stable in all situations and all circumstances, which is spot on. And the third and final thing that I really like is it's got an excellent level of comfort ergonomics. We were on this bike all day yesterday, clocked up about 200 kilometers. Doesn't sound a lot, but a lot of the roads were very twisty, so it was a big thumbs up in the way that it was just super comfy to ride all day. So yeah, levels of comfort are absolutely spot on, and if you're feeling particularly racy, you can do away with the pillion seat and get a nice slinky looking little seat cover, which is boss as well. The only thing that I can find about the Z900, the new 2020 Z900, that I'm not 100% keen on is the tyres, but like I said, it's not really the bike, it's a consumable part and it is easily fixed anyway. It's bikes like this that make me wonder why there are 200 horsepower nakeds out there. I know having more power is fun and it's, you know, wheelies and excitement, but when you've got a bike that's got about 123, 124 horsepower and you've got a really twisty road and you've got suspension that is this good and you've got a chassis that is so balanced and so stable, it's just such a pleasure to be able to ride it up to sort of 90% of what the bike can do. Whereas with a big 200 horsepower super naked, I'm probably never going to get to 60 or 75% of what the bike's got to offer, and I really enjoy the fact that you can extract it all. I think the price point for it is really very good, and I think the update to the styling for this year is spot on. The Z naked family is kind of all joined up now and it looks really nice. I like the lineage, and you can sort of see the DNA of the Z model series all the way through, which is properly cool. Like I said, these are going to be in dealers before Christmas. If you've not seen it already at one of the bike shows, get yourself down to a Kawasaki dealer, get yourself a test ride, and you will not be disappointed. I've been told you can read a full review on visordown.com. Cheers, guys.